Okay, welcome to Coder Radio. This should be for Monday, March 24th. I have a great conversation today with Matt Hartley from Framework. That's right, computing company that does those, Lego is the wrong word, but like laptops you can kind of snap together, modular laptops. That's what I'm thinking of. And of course, the new Framework desktop. A lot of cool stuff in here. But of course, c'est la temps, we have some housekeeping. Number one, the Coder Radio Mad Bot or whatever it is, Earth Day competition still going on. So if you are a high school or middle school student, get those submissions in. There is a link in the show notes, yeah? Also, Discord, it's popping in there. I haven't been able to check in the last day too much, but I know there's a lot going on there. Great place to hang out, a lot of cool people. People are posting jobs and other opportunities, helping with IT setups. You should go hang out in the Discord, which is also in the show notes. Additionally, yes, I have gotten the emails and the DMs regarding the whole vibe coding thing. That is probably going to be a substantial portion of our feedback in the coming, I guess, by the time you hear this, it would be the following week. So next week for you. Yeah, there's a lot there, right? I'm not going to be able to cover everything because quite a few of you sent me stuff. You all don't agree, which I think is fairly interesting. And my view on this is evolving. So yeah, I'm hoping to get someone from one of the, what do we call them, vibe enablers on, I guess, right? The tools people are using for this. I don't know. There's, of course, that story from Twitter where that poor guy posted that he had vibe coded a SaaS. And I guess folks started DDoSing a SaaS or something. There's a lot here. And who knows, right? This is all evolving very quickly. There's certainly a steamy amount of hype around that. But yeah, that's going to be a big topic for next week's show. I'm actually reaching out to some folks who, how could I put this, are in the vibe space. Is there a vibe space? Is that like negative space or warp space or hyperspace or something? To kind of get maybe a more, tool maker's perspective on vibe coding, right? I do apologize if during this intro there is a little shaking sound. Something is again wrong with my Apple Studio display monitor, and it is doing that weird shaking, grinding sound. Hopefully the editing folks can get that out if the mic picked it up. I'm not going to hold you too long today because this is a little longer conversation than usual. So I'll, try to be respectful of your time. Just do check out Coder Radio's Discord and find me at Dubnuko on Twitter and the Skies of Blue. And all right, enjoy the conversation with Matt Hartley from Framework. Well, hello, Matt Hartley. You'll have to excuse the noise. I'm 3D printing custom tiles. Can't imagine why I'd be doing that.
If I stopped and thought about it, I think I could probably put that one together and assemble something really cool with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So for folks who haven't seen you on socials and all that good stuff, you are Matt. You work over at Framework. I actually don't know your exact title. I should have written that down.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm the Linux support lead for Framework Computer. I work very closely with marketing, engineering, and other teams to make sure that I'm representative of the community. So I know there are times I'm sure people probably feel that may not always be the case, but I promise you that is in fact what I do.
Well, and you've been around the Linux world. I know,
a couple months.
Fans.
Yeah. I a couple distros here and there. A couple months,
sure.
20 plus years,
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been doing this about 20 plus years, off and on, obviously not the full time, but enough to where I've seen a lot of things come full circle, and it's been quite a trip, and this has been a heck of a ride. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, so you know what? Let's just rip the Band-Aid off because I need to silence the clamor in the Discord chat room.
All right.
Where the hell did y'all come up with that idea for the Framework desktop?
So that is an interesting thought. It was actually something that was brought up to us by AMD. They had a discussion with us about it. We looked at it and said, okay, based on everything they're telling us as far as what this thing can do and the power behind it, and looking at some of the interesting opportunities, which I'll get into in a minute, it was a no-brainer. And the whole concept really comes down to two, from my perspective, and others in the company will have different perspectives, but from my perspective, it really comes down to two very distinctive things: gaming and being able to run your own AI models locally, not dependent on some faceless corporation, but to be able to do so at home, completely disconnected from the world if you want, and to have full control over that. And to be able to do so quickly and effectively and at ridiculous speeds on a tiny little box. From a gaming perspective, it's cool because it's like not everyone wants to buy a console, not everyone wants to build a PC, not everyone wants to get something that maybe is less than ideal from off the shelf.
Yeah.
This meets that in the middle to where it's like, okay, this is modular. So I mean, like you can in fact take it apart and print 3D print a case and drop that board into that if you want. But the idea is that this you don't have to. You literally buy it and you're good to go. You don't need to worry about how to go through the process of building a gaming computer or even a computer to do AI models on. And that was kind of the focus.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, we should probably back up a little bit for folks who don't know. Although I would be very surprised that if there were a lot of people who don't know what or who Framework the company is, but I'll just give them the quick. And you can please correct me where I'm wrong.
Of course, absolutely.
So Framework is a hardware vendor. They, I believe, originally it was just laptops that you could either pay for a Windows license or go your own way, which I would imagine in most cases means Linux, except for I hear you BSD devil worshippers. I know you're there. I get your emails. It's fine. You're good for you. Says the guy running on a fake BSD machine called Mac right now, but we won't talk about that. We're not going to talk about that today. So you guys now this is where I don't know when you introduced this. You're going to have to help me. The modular aspect of it, where instead of just being like we won't name other large PC vendors from Texas here, but you don't just pick your RAM and your CPU. You're picking hardware. Do I need an Ethernet switch? Do I need SD card support, right? But they're modular components that folks can swap in and out. Where did I go wrong there?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So when the company first launched, it was based on the premise that, and this is before I actually came on. So this is actually 2021. I mean, we're considering how far we've come in such a short period of time. It's actually pretty amazing.
He's lying to you, folks. He's made every single decision down to the brand of coffee they get at the office.
That's right. I'm very particular about my coffee. I had to draw a line somewhere. I mean,
in fact, he's really personally responsible for each individual tile on the new desktop.
Exactly right. No kidding. Yeah. So as far as the modularity of the laptops, there's no question that there was a need there. We were looking at the folks that actually founded the company looked at this and said, wow, there's an obvious need here. We are just we're a throwaway society. We're just throwing stuff away. A lot of the stuff is still good. And why can't we fix it? If those of you like myself that are old enough to remember fixing your TV, maybe not myself personally, but my parents, being able to actually fix your own television set without having to take it to a shop to where you actually had enough modularity to where you could replace a tube or, actually adjust different things or actually get into it and really work on it. Taking from the desktop model of being able to have something that's truly modular. So our laptops, that means modular RAM, obviously, the laptops themselves, battery, wireless card, all the expected things, but also speakers, bezel, webcam, screen, motherboard, on and on and on. Basically, I'm not going to go into every single component, but you kind of get the idea. That the idea is that if something breaks, you replace the component, not the entire laptop. And if something becomes quote unquote obsolete or you're not using it anymore, it becomes a Plex server or a Jellyfin server. Whatever you want to do. You want to do own cloud? That's fine too. xCloud, whatever.
It makes a ton of sense, really. I mean, I could see a scenario. I'm thinking because we have a pretty substantial gaming enthusiast contingent that listens, of folks saying, okay, well, I mean, I can use myself as the negative example, right? Okay, so I have this unbelievably expensive MacBook Pro that it's been doing me well, but the problem with it is it had a minor hardware issue. They had to replace the motherboard, or I'm sorry, logic board. I know. Very particular.
You got to get the Apple terminology.
Yep. You say that at the Genius Bar, and they look at you like you have 5 heads. Like you just beamed down from Mars in one of SpaceX's Dragons or Falcons or whatever they're called. So what that meant is, because I asked the guy, well, can we just replace the part? It was, they ended up calling me back and saying they think it was like a RAM chip that went bad initially.
Huh, okay.
But the RAM is soldered. Now, I know we're going to get to that. I know
we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that.
Well, there's a parallel. But it's the same thing for all their components. So instead of just being, let's say, a quick swap out, they ended up just replacing the entire thing. CPU, their architecture, obviously the CPU and GPU are the same thing, right? the whole logic board. They even I found this incredibly odd, Matt. They replaced the keyboard.
That's surprising,
I
actually.
don't, and there was nothing wrong with the keyboard. So
Right.
I don't know if it got damaged, like maybe by accident when they were, which was kind of them if they noticed they made an error and
Yeah.
didn't beat me with the bag. But I was like, I'm just thinking about all the scrap metal, all the the silicon, all that
Yeah.
that had to be mined out of somewhere in the world, right? And there's labor involved. It's just I'm sure they're not really recycling it. It's got to be in the bin somewhere.
I would think so. I'd say there's a high probability that I can't speak to it one way or the other, but I
No, we
will
don't know,
say
and we're
that,
not like indicting
yeah,
Apple
we
or any
definitely
other
have.
company.
We're
Yeah,
speculating, just as to what it very well could have been, just some damage done, and they needed to replace some things. Who knows? But
We-
it's interesting they replaced the keyboard, right? Like, what's up with that? Like, what that's super weird.
well, they send you a summary. So when they give you
Okay,
I'm sure lots of people have done this, and they write like a note. The technician writes a note about what he or she did, and they said that they actually replaced it, not only the keyboard but the whole bottom half. It's a laptop, right? So the whole
sure.
bottom half of the machine, chassis and all.
Wow,
And I
wow.
know this because I had a sticker on the negative space is the wrong word, but where your wrist can
Yeah.
lay,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it was gone. So yeah,
That is so wild. So we would do it a little differently. We would say, okay, so clearly, let's say it was the main board in our
right.
system. Okay, let's say it's the main board. So at that particular case, you would you would be able to keep your RAM. You'd be able to keep all the other components, including your wireless card and all the other stuff. The only thing being replaced is truly the main board itself, CPU and main board, because they're all basically put in together. It's just to make that easier for transporting back and forth when you're
Yeah.
replacing boards. That's it. We're not going to replace your keyboard. We're going to try this radical thing to where we detach your keyboard and set it to the side, preferably a side that we're not going to spill coffee on it. Then we're going to remove the board, diagnose it. If it's to be sent in for repair. Otherwise, even more radical idea, we say, hey, okay, we've gone through troubleshooting steps. We believe that this is in fact a potential mainboard issue, depending where you fall at the warranty as to where that falls. But regardless, let's RMA that. All right. So we RMA the main board. You replace the main board and your laptop never left your home. So that's weird, right? It's like, okay.
Well, and I think we should add the installation process for your guys' components is I mean I described it because I showed it to my actual my soon to be 9-year-old, and you know what he called it?
What do you call
You
it?
might get a kick. He called it a Lego computer.
That is
'Cause
that is exactly what we're going for.
Yep,
Exactly. Yes.
so I said you just snap in the new thing you want. I said, so if you want to plug in an Xbox, because you have to speak their language. You got to bring it back
That's
to
right.
Minecraft. You got to get there.
Absolutely.
So I
That's
said,
right.
we get one of these and you want to play Minecraft. Well, we have to make sure we plug in the component for the USB cable, which is the Xbox controller cable. And I said, you can play Minecraft all day long. You know what he told me?
What do you say?
Dad, I have my own mods now. I need a keyboard. So I tried to be nice, but got
Oh my
roasted.
goodness.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I respect that so much. That's so cool. Yeah, and kids definitely. One thing I've noticed, especially when I go to events, is young people come to the booth and when we're presenting, and they immediately we're not even there. They're already zoned in and already know exactly what they want to do with this. They're already pulling stuff apart. Maybe if it's Framework 16, maybe they're moving the keyboard back and forth, adding the numpad, whatever. It's interesting because they don't really need the adults in the equation. They've already got this
Nope.
dialed in. It's awesome.
No, they're so native to technology that
Yeah,
yeah.
it's great. It's great.
So I'm gonna rein us back in because we're having too much fun, and
That's true.
nobody listens to podcasts for fun. It's hard work. You have to
Ah,
feel really bad. This is
it's
NPR. You
rough.
got to feel bad at the end. This is not NPR. Do not sue
Totally,
me,
totally.
whoever runs NPR now. So okay, so you have the laptops. I think we all understand how the laptops work.
Right.
Although I do like the new one. I like the 12-inch one. I like the thing you
Yeah.
did with the bezels. Yeah, if you want to talk about that real quick, though, the idea for the bezel thing, that's just
Yeah, so I mean, the whole premise of the laptop is to make, and if you want to know about any of the stuff that I don't cover, for those of you listening, please visit the website and all the details are there, including the video. It shows kind of what it does, and then of course our launch event videos on YouTube, so on and so forth. Plug done. Back to the 12. What's interesting about it is that it's a convertible notebook, so that I can actually fold it in half. Which I always like to like. I remember showing it to my wife. I was like, "Check this out," but she thought I was going to snap it in half, bend it around. It's like, nope, it's actually a tablet. Pulled out a stylus and began to actually work on it. It is interesting. The bezel's interesting. The whole premise of it is completely different. But the biggest takeaway from it, in my opinion, I'm holding it in my hand so I can really get a good grip on it, is that it's very, very child friendly. Meaning that this thing is tough, really
Mm.
tough. When you hold it, the hinge is ridiculous. Like I'm sitting here swinging it over and it's not moving.
Oh
Now, if
my
I
God.
want to fold it, I can, but it's got a great hinge on it. The bezel is definitely an interesting choice, but again, looking at a balance of cost, looking at a balance of what we're going to need for durability, and just generally the overall concept of the computer itself.
Yeah.
It does take apart a little differently than the 13, but it's still extremely easy. The insides, the modularity is completely the same. It's all expansion cards. All of our stuff works as expansion cards. You don't ever have to worry about that. It's actually really cool. It's definitely fascinating how we've managed to do that. And again, it's still, to me personally, and I have two of them, it trips me out how you can take one and just make it a tablet. That just for me was like such a big ask for so many people, and I was among them. I thought that was really cool.
I mean, this is where I'm very conflicted. I am not a huge desktop Windows user,
Sure.
but I do not understand why any of the many laptops that I have for various, contracting gigs I
Mhm.
do cannot fold backwards and just be a
Right.
tablet when I want to just quickly check something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, it's especially, I don't know why I'm beating up on Apple so much, but at those price points, it seems almost trivial for what you're paying, right?
I think it is, and we've clearly demonstrated it's certainly doable. And modularity, of course, is a choice as well. That's always important. But yes, it's very, very doable. And I thought it would
But
also be an interesting aside that we have people that are coming from Apple to us in droves, a lot of them actually. So that's something that I thought
I
was
heard
interesting.
I just had a conversation with Carl over at System 76. They're saying the
Yeah.
same thing, that there's a
Yep.
lot of particularly technical people
Absolutely.
are just, yeah, it's like like an exodus away from Apple. Honestly, I'm considering the same. This took a weird turn, but in front of me I have an Apple Studio display that's been repaired 3 times.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
I've had it for years, so
Sure.
understandable. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking, and I'm looking at the costs, and I'm looking at this is more of a broader like Linux
Hmm.
desktop thing, right? I'm looking at what Framework's coming out with, or in this case, just came out with. I'm looking at what System 76 just came out with. Even Dell, right, has some pretty good Linux support now,
They do.
and I'm thinking, well, if I'm willing to spend $5,000 on a workstation, why am I buying one that can never be repaired?
That's right.
That is weirdly proprietary. Like my monitor is stupidly proprietary. That- the thing
Oh yeah.
holding me back from doing the switch completely is I have to buy a new monitor, and I'm a pretty princess, and I want my 5K. So that, that's where I am. I mean,
Yes.
I admit my faults, right? It's like, but it doesn't make sense. I think about it. Things break, or more importantly, things have to get changed, right? So for my
Right. Right.
workflows, I do run local LLMs that do a lot of graphical stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
And something extremely important to me is high-speed Thunderbolt,
Yes.
because hard drives are never big enough. I have a bunch of external drives that are Thunderbolt, and I just offload the assets that I train on onto those drives. More on this later, folks. Not
So
having that is not super useful for me, but I don't always need it, right? If I'm on the road, I don't need high-speed Thunderbolt. I probably need regular USB. Being able to swap that out would actually, I think, be so. This is a good question.
yes,
It is swappable after you initially config, right?
we're talking about the desktop. Is that right? Or the
Oh, either.
either? Okay. So you're talking about as far as the drives, or make sure I'm following with what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
So let me give you the exact case, right?
Okay.
So at home here in Florida, I usually want the Thunderbolt because I have a bunch of stuff like daisy chained up.
Hmm. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
On the road, I almost always need like USB, I think is classic, right?
Mhm.
Could I take out the Thunderbolt expansion card slot and put in the USB-A one in its place without any
Oh,
kind of
sure. Yeah,
major?
you do
Okay.
that live. They're all hot swappable completely.
Oh, you could do it when
Yeah.
it's on?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what's nice is that with basically the actual inner connection itself is just USB-C, which call it Thunderbolt, whatever you want to call
Sure.
it, but
Yeah.
it's Intel. language. But anyway, yeah, the idea is that you can literally just drop in your expansion cards however you want. You don't have to turn anything off to do that. So you can decide that if you want to have nothing but USB-C across all 4 ports or all 6 ports, depending on what the unit is you have. However you want to do that, that's completely up to you. They are totally hot swappable.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So let's talk about the new desktop.
Okay.
We love the tiling. I personally love the tiling. I think that's
I
an
do.
amazing idea. I have to ask, and I know you can't say numbers. I feel like you must be selling a lot of these to people who are installing Linux on it.
We are. So
Yeah.
one of the interesting takeaways, and this is something I've been working on for. This is something while I didn't do any of the heavy lifting, but I was kind of the one working with
He did it
contacts.
all by himself in a
Yeah.
dark room. It looks like a black site, like one of the CIA's black sites in
I
Poland.
am sitting in a dark room. I mean, that's technically true.
He's
You know, just
actually
'cause
at
I'm
Fort Meade right now. Just
That's
saying.
right, and exactly. So, yeah, with the idea here was that we wanted to make sure that this was the best experience for whatever we're looking for specifically. One of the big things, if you watched our framework launch event that we had recently, you'll notice that, especially for gaming, one of the mentions we had was for Bazite, as well as Playtron. Bazite is one that I've been working with very closely. I work with Ubrew, literally talking with them every single day to make sure that we have something that is just absolutely out of the box, no brainer. Everything just kind of does its job. I know it's a real radical concept for Linux, but I think we've gotten there. And that was something that I felt was important. So yeah, that was definitely a big focus for me, is to make sure that Bazite was going to be a focus, because I felt like that if people were grabbing this, especially coming from Apple or coming from something else, they're expecting things to just kind of do their job and just to work. That being said, we did have some challenges as far as making sure, because it is really, really cutting edge stuff. So we need to make sure that Linux is where we want it to be. We're feeling really good about where things are going with Fedora, feeling really good about where things are going with Bazite. Project Bluefin, for example, has an LTS project they're working on. We're aiming to make that a big focus. It's CentOS based, which is cool. Just trying to appeal to a really nice, large audience and make sure that's a good experience. So
I love it. So, okay, I'm configuring one right now because I'm a
sure.
maniac. And all right, so we obviously need more storage. I'm looking at the tiles, all kinds of choices, but I this is my personal thing. I think people are going to be printing their own. I
Oh yeah,
just have a feeling that's going to be. Have you seen any yet? Are people setting them to you?
we have. I think there have been. I haven't seen them personally. I know that some folks have. I know, for example, we have a Bazite custom tile. We did one for Arch
Nice.
that we actually did in house, that we actually created, and then I think we're going to be seeing a number of others. I think we'll definitely be seeing, without giving away too much here, we're going to definitely start seeing more distro specific ones, and
Makes
that is
sense.
exciting. That, because I think that people that have their distro of choice want to make sure that they're plugged in and representing the fact that, hey, I use Hannah Montana Linux, by the way.
A
Whatever. We
real
want to make
thing,
sure
folks.
a
A
real
real
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is.
He's not kidding.
I wish it's super weird. I don't even know how to have an opinion on it, but
I have to be
it totally
honest. If you're
exists. Yeah.
like a 40-something-year-old man and you're installing Hannah Montana Linux, I think I'm okay with the FBI. Just like a little bit of a man in the middle attack there. Like,
It's a little weird. Yeah, it's a little
yeah.
weird. Definitely, no question. But yeah, we wanted to make sure that people can actually print their own tiles, and I believe we have schematics on GitHub for that. We have pretty
Yes.
much anything you can think of is on GitHub. If you're curious about it and want to see how can 3D print this, that, or the other thing, yeah, you want to do cases, it's all there.
Awesome. And I have to take the opportunity. There's the wonderful Happy Earth tile, which reminds me, my company, the Mad Botter, is doing an Earth Day giveaway for middle school and high school students. All
That's
you
so
have to do
cool.
is, all you have to do is put up a little open source project publicly on GitHub, get parental permission, send a note. I'll link it in the show notes. First place winner gets a Thalio. Second and third get a keyboard each.
That is
Obviously,
awesome.
I'm not going to make you share a keyboard. That would be very
So
cruel
cool.
since it's
That'd be
nationwide.
tough. That'd be tough.
Yeah.
But that's a really cool thing. I think that's amazing. Nice.
You got to hook the kids young, right?
Yeah.
And it's you know what? You think about it. This is, my little lecture, my dad lecture here.
Mhm.
This climate stuff is Matt and Mike's problem, but it's gonna be the next, and more so their kids' problem. So
That's it. That's
better
it.
get on
I
it.
have a grandniece, and I think about
Ah,
her in that regard all the time. I'm thinking, wow, what are we leaving her? It's just like,
yeah.
oof.
What's it gonna
Yeah,
be like? Yeah, it's
exactly.
terrible. Yeah. So I'm configuring. I'm already up to 2,500.
All right, on.
I'm adding my Earth Day thing.
So you're getting all the bells and whistles. Nice.
Yeah, I've got 6 terabytes of storage.
As
Oh
one
wait,
should.
not gonna do Windows, but people who want Windows, that is there for you. We have CPU fans. Just gonna pick the expensive one because it's only
Oh yeah.
$10 different.
I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, okay, the cables, sure. I'm not in the EU. Let me pick the American one. Isn't this fun radio, guys? Watching me configure something?
It's
So
the mind's eye. It's all about painting the picture, right?
painting the picture.
That's
All right,
right.
so as I would configure it, I'm at $2,607.
All right.
And it's telling me that I need to get more tiles.
Yeah. I
So
mean, you got to get more tiles. It's like it's
right.
important to not have a half-dressed machine situation because otherwise
It's
it just feels awkward.
well, it's true. If you're a Twitch streamer and your computer is half naked, they actually take you down. So
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Their frowns are had, sad times are experienced.
sorry.
It's just
So this is pretty good. So what's the process? I get this thing in. There's no OS on it. Do I just pop in a USB live? In my case, it would be Pop, but whatever Linux distro people want to use. And
exactly. Yeah, Pop would
Mhm.
have a nice current kernel so that you're in a good place there.
Okay.
In a perfect world, realistically, and this is just good for anyone pre-ordering to know now, is just to be aware of that. We want you on a current kernel. Eventually, happy place is going to be 614. You're also going to be quite comfortable with 613.5. That just makes sure that everything's where it needs to be and that everything's firing on all cylinders and you're in a good place. But yeah, for the best functionality, it's going to be 614. That's where you're going to be at your happy
Okay.
place.
Yeah.
So really, Pop will be fine. Yeah, that'd be
Right. Pop, any modern Ubuntu
yeah,
based,
yeah,
any
sure.
any BSD, I guess, if you are like that.
BSD is a different, although I won't go into too much detail there, but we are absolutely, seeing some exciting things come from them. So that's awesome. But yeah,
Very good.
I think that it's definitely where it gets interesting. It's like some of the distros have older kernels, and you just have to be aware of what you're running.
Some
Fedora's
sort
a
of
happy place. Yeah, I mean, got lots of options out there.
I mean, this pricing. So I got us up to 2,800 because I added a bunch of expansion cards.
Yeah.
Which I probably in reality would not add. Right. I
You
wouldn't.
say that, and I said that working here, and I still get them because
Do you
it's like you can
really?
never have enough. Oh yeah, well you misplace them. You're like, oh man, I had a
Oh, that's
USB-C
true.
here in my hand 2 minutes ago, and I don't know what I did with it, or it's in a machine and you forgot about it. And yeah, it's just nice to have a stack of them. That and you look like a rock star when you make an audio jack appear on either side of your computer because you can. So
It's so amazing what you guys have been able to do with this. I should mention that the stats on this at that price are a 16/32 thread CPU. They're all AMD, right? And we're gonna get to the RAM thing because
yep,
I think I know why.
yep, yep.
40 graphics cores, sure. 128 gigs of RAM. That is actually probably overkill, like way overkill for me.
Yeah, it depends on your use case scenario. If you're
Yeah,
gaming, yeah,
yeah.
that is definitely
Well,
overkill. If
I
you're
do
gonna,
the local LLM stuff, but it's
yeah.
like right now I'm running it with 96 and I'm fine.
You're
So
good at 96. Yeah, 96 is a happy place to be. My philosophy with RAM in general is
more.
future-proof yourself. Just throw
Oh
it in
yeah.
there.
So
Just
let's
toss it
talk
in.
about the RAM. I think this is the only thing you guys have gotten a little bit of a ding on here.
We did. So, and there's actually a new video that was just posted to the Framework YouTube channel that that Nirav does a really eloquent job of explaining the rationale why that it wasn't some big, conspiracy, or it doesn't change our support for the fact that we also simultaneously launched 2 laptops that are completely modular and have removable RAM.
Right.
The whole point with the Framework desktop is that we were at a crossroads where it's like, okay, if we don't have this soldered in, you are taking a speed hit, full stop. So that presents an opportunity. It's like if you're running running local models and you're wanting to make sure you get the best experience possible, really without losing that benefit, it did have to be soldered. It was not, and again, I'm not going to go into all the hyper detail of it because Nirav does a much better job of it than I do, but there was a rationale behind it. And I also want to be clear that this has absolutely zero effect on our laptop offerings. This is not change of, path or anything like weird like that. I mean, it literally was done like, that's a speed hit. We should probably make sure we don't do that because otherwise people are going to be like, why isn't this going as fast as I would expect it to? That's why. So
Well, I think the trade-off of, you know, having the RAM basically soldered in, right,
Right.
versus taking a speed hit permanently is
Exactly.
pretty fair.
Exactly. I think when you go into it knowing, and actually, because I have a couple of them, one thing I don't have a shortage of is computers. I have a couple of the desktops sitting down here, and when you actually see it and take it apart and look at it, you realize it's like, okay, well, I made sure I purchased the amount of RAM that I'm going to be needing, and that's fine. But if at some point you do decide that you want to get, maybe there's a super duper deluxe model, 10, however many years down the road, whatever it is, that board can be removed and then put into something else. You can literally 3D print your own case and do
Right.
whatever else you want with it. So it's not like the rest of it's not modular. It's just the matter of making sure that that speed is being seen to, that you're getting the absolute best performance. It was a deep, heavy conversation. All sides were looked at, and it was the right call. Some folks understand, some folks are just not okay with it, but that does not reflect our other offerings whatsoever. So,
Got it. So it's kind of a one-off decision for the desktop for performance reasons.
in this case, yes, exactly. I can't
Okay.
speak to what the future is or isn't.
Right.
Legitimately, I've absolutely no idea. But yeah, there would be no reason that I would ever see where we would do that, because the big takeaway here is our laptop ecosystem is precious to us. We are going to continue to build off that ecosystem. Take that as you may, but it's not going anywhere. The desktop is its own ecosystem. It's its own animal completely. So
Well, and I think it makes sense, right? Because if you're buying a tower in 2025,
that's right.
you're probably doing it purely for performance reasons, I would imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially, when you're looking at it for, because of the fact that we are targeting, AI models and things like that, that folks want to run locally. We want to make sure that we're not presenting that performance hit. It's definitely folks that feel strongly about it are going to feel strongly about it, and I totally respect that and I get it. But it was not done willy nilly, and it was certainly not done discounting our mission or trying to make anything seem less than it. And quite the opposite. We want this to be the absolute best out of the box experience possible. So.
Are you saying nerds on the internet have strong feelings about things?
Never. Oh, never. No, they don't have like heated battles about Babylon 5 versus Star Trek versus Star Wars. That totally never happens, or
There's
DS9
no
versus
reason to
Babylon
fight
5.
about it because there's obviously a right answer,
Oh yeah, Babylon 5, obviously.
obviously. So
Obviously.
problem solved.
See?
Oh man. All right. So as I'm trying to resist the urge to put the $100 down for this pre-order, he's laughing because he knows I'm gonna
Oh
definitely
yeah,
fail.
I think
Yeah.
it's going to happen. Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
might happen in the next 5 minutes. Obviously, you love all distros, right? I'm not
Yep.
going to try
Yep.
to say you don't. Is there any distro that you're aware of that someone purchasing this desktop should be aware that they might have a little more work?
Yes, there's absolutely compatibility, and this is important. This is an important conversation in general. So, if you're familiar with Framework, you are familiar with our compatibility chart, and it was not done arbitrarily. When I first came onto the company, I part of my job was to make sure we've reeled in expectations of what we can officially test and support against versus what we work with through the community. In that vein, for the desktop specifically, we want to make sure that you are on any distribution that is at minimum 6.13.5, preferably going into 6.14 and greater, obviously, because it's good. Doer is better in this case. That being said, there are some distros that are running older stuff. But the good news is, and I'll provide an example because I can, Linux Mint, for example, an amazing distribution. We're working very closely with them. They are today would not be compatible with this particular unit based on kernel version. I mean, it would, well, let me preface that. If we're running 6.11, it'll work, but you're not going to get, there will be some hits and misses along the way. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but we are working with them to make sure that we are getting a kernel in there that's going to work. So the big focus is I have XYZ kernel or the XYZ distro I'm really into. Fine. Make sure that you have that kernel recommendation and you'll be okay. That being said, our officially recommended is going to be Fedora, Bazite. We have folks that are using Arch. Arch is always a safe bet because it's always bleeding edge. Really depends on where you want to go.
Okay, but it sounds like most main that to me that just says most mainstream distros are fine.
Most mainstream. Ubuntu base can be a little finicky just because you're going to be waiting for the next ones to drop. So it's yes, Ubuntu will absolutely be an option. We're targeting their next interim release. That's looking real promising because that should be 6.14. And when that lands, that will be in a happy place. But you can, in fact, if you just want to run your computer, you can absolutely do it with 611, 612
Nice.
is also perfectly fine. But again, newer is better. So it's like I really got to set those expectations, because a lot of folks are like, well, I'm coming at this with they'll have like an Ubuntu release that they blew dust off of, and they'll put it in their computer and be like, why isn't this working right? It's like, well, what's your kernel? Oh yeah, I'm running 515. Okay, well, there's your problem. We just want to make sure that everyone's expectations are being realistic on that. So yeah, my personal recommendation is Pop is fine, Fedora is fine, anything like that. That has a nice up-to-date kernel. You're going to be in a happy place.
Okay, so Nix is fine too, because I
Nix
know
is
we
absolutely
have a
fine.
bunch
Yeah,
of Nix users. Or
exactly.
Arch. Okay.
And we do work with Arch, and pretty much work with everybody these days. We have a active communication with Arch, active communication with Nix. Yeah, you'll be fine there. Shouldn't be a problem.
Awesome. All right. So one very serious question. What do you think? Orange, diagonal, or straight?
Gosh, I have a soft spot for diagonal.
I think I'm going diagonal.
Yeah, I feel like diagonal, because it's just kind of in your face. It's just like, huzzah, and you can just kind of go there. I like it.
It does seem pretty snazzy, I have to say. So I have one last question, and then I think we're going to have a quick bonus segment that we've never done before. But my last question, I ask everybody. It cannot be a Framework product.
Okay.
What is your favorite tool that you can't live without? Doesn't have to be work related. Doesn't have to be tech. Just can't be from where you work, right? Just anything.
Boy, that is a tough one. Honestly, this is tech product or just any product?
It could. So like if you asked me, mine would be my electric kettle.
Okay, yeah. I was actually same vein. I have a little electric coffee warmer sitting right next to my desk here. It's just a little podunk thing, nothing real exciting. And I use it ridiculously throughout the day. I use it quite frequently because it means that I'm not having to constantly reheat my coffee. So I know that my coffee is always warm when I want it. Has an auto timer, so it's not just eating through electricity all day. It heats up my coffee, does its job, and then powers off like it should. And it's a hard cut off, so it's not going to sit there and vampire electricity out all day long. And so it makes it a little more eco-friendly.
I have one of those as well that my tea is currently sitting on. So.
Right, they're great.
It's just right on my desk at all times.
Nice.
And well, Matt, I'd like to thank you for coming on. I also would like to tell you that I do appreciate you guys sending me this wonderful email. Thank you for your pre-order.
That's awesome. All right, cool.
I caved. Now the problem is, can you make a monitor that meets my very exacting specifications?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for like a I don't know, like a yes, I want like one of those Back to the Future helmets like the doctor wears, where he's like the mind reading. I'm kind of waiting for one of those, but I think a monitor does seem more plausible. That would be cool.
Yeah. So for folks who don't know, because I'm a maniac, I went with the highest configuration of the first default 3 presets.
Nice.
I got a total between both drives of 6 terabytes of storage. You don't care about fan really, or I'm in America, so obviously I got the American power cable. Otherwise, that would be a challenge.
That would be some conversion. Yeah, that would definitely.
And boy, did I get some tiles. I've got black tiles, orange tiles. I've got lavender tiles. I've got green tiles. I've got Tux. I've got the Framework logo, and I'm gonna be working probably as soon as it comes on some of those Mad Botter tiles.
Awesome. Love it.
I also got 2 of the, by the way, this is not a commercial. They're not paying me. I should say. He knows he's not paying me, but yeah. The purple, the translucent purple reminds me of the Game Boy Color I had as a kid. Right. And that is so cool.
Yes. I actually commented on something I think a few others internally did as well. I was like, God, wow, that looks really, oh yeah, it is a Game Boy. Okay. Yeah, it definitely has that color vibe to it. And I think that might have been the idea.
Yep. So I got 2 of those in the purple translucent and the green translucent, 2 USB-As just in case, and a Ethernet expansion card because I have FiOS, and why would I use Wi-Fi when the router is right next to me?
That is true. It's can't beat the security of not to mention the throughput.
So this will be great. I could do a cosmic review on a Framework tower. I mean,
nice.
This is like the Linux double header.
That's awesome. Yes. I love it.
All right, Matt. Where can folks find you?
Well, the best place to find us is frame.work. You can go there and check out what we're all about. We also are present on X, Mastodon, and Blue Sky, as well as all the other socials. And of course, we have a lot of videos on Matt, but you didn't answer this question. Go to the YouTube channel. Odds are there's a video on it, either something I've blabbed about at one point, or more than likely, Rob has covered it in depth.
Nice. All right, Matt, thank you for coming on, and hope to have you on soon.
Absolutely. Always happy to come on. Thank you.
It's been great.
Thank
Talk to you later.
you. Bye.